This is the neighborhood of South Riverdale, located over here, just east of downtown Toronto. To dig deeper, we'll start over in the northern portion of the neighborhood and make our way around from there. Making up the northern border of the neighborhood over here is the major street of Gerard Street East, which has streetcar tracks running along it and contains the vibrant, bustling strip that is East Chinatown over here, right in and around Gerard's energetic intersection with Broadview Avenue. Known for its authentic cuisine and lively diversity, among other things, East Chinatown is just one of the Chinatowns that calls Toronto home. It emerged as such in and around the early 70s with the opening of Charlie's Meats, and it has since become the dynamic, active, eclectic enclave that it is today, great for grabbing a bite to eat or walking around and observing the varied array of compact structures which are located here, ranging from often co-joined stores with apartments above to old, somewhat crowded townhomes right by the road. Nowadays, the majority of these homes right here, at least on ground level, have been turned into commercial locations, although some of them are still entirely residential. Many of these homes are fairly shaggy places, with overgrown vegetation in the compact yard, retaining some of the historic, rather dense, gritty charm that this area has been at least partially associated with in past times. That being said, some of the places right here are just kind of run down, and perhaps could use a bit of a makeover. The residential homes continue east on Gerard until its meeting with the train tracks at Carla Avenue, which is a very interesting intersection indeed, and has a nice mural in between the two bridges that go over the respective streets. These tracks wind along diagonally and take Gerard Street's place as the northern border of the neighborhood until they reach Greenwood Avenue, the street that acts as the eastern line of the neighborhood until Queen Street down here. Gerard, in between the tracks and Jones Avenue, has another sort of mixed strip along it, containing both the dense homes that we touched on before, as well as vibrant shopping and commercial places near its intersection with Pape Avenue, where this sizable retail area is located. There's also some shops and things of that nature near the intersection of Gerard and the aforementioned Jones. In between Jones Avenue and Greenwood, Gerard Street sort of gets a bit more laid back, and you'll find some larger, less compact homes along it. This more or less continues north of the road throughout much of the triangle in between Greenwood, Gerard, and the train tracks, shown in turquoise. This quieter residential area contains a mix of different home types, which more or less range from places that look like this and this, to places that look like this and even this, all right near each other along relatively tranquil, lush, tree-lined streets and laneways. That, along with its great location right near all that we've discussed, as well as more that we have yet to discuss, makes this certainly a great place to be, seeing as well as being within a short distance from the beaches just primarily to the southeast, some of which we'll touch on a bit later on. It's close enough to downtown for convenience, yet far enough away to provide a more relaxing environment, which is generally great if you wanted to, say, raise a family. Although who wants to raise a family these days? Am I right? These dynamics are not just unique to right over here, however. They're also prevalent to quite a large extent to the west, and primarily south, pretty much everywhere shown in turquoise, actually. Similarly to the ones closer to the train tracks, all these places are virtually all pretty great, as they're based in prime locations in the heart of this ideally located neighborhood, with tranquil trees in the backyards of cozy family homes, right nearby to the lively activity that takes place along the aforementioned Gerard Street, as well as the major streets of Dundas and Queen, which, similar to Gerard, contain, among other things, vibrant shopping areas along them, as well as eclectic homes and retrofitted condos. Speaking of eclectic homes, quaint little Allen Avenue right here has a rather distinct, almost cottage-like pristine charm to it, which is quite neat. Definitely a place to check out. And, with its lovely Victorian Georgian theme, just enriches the already overwhelming array of affluence and variety that this neighborhood contains. This nice little street sits right off of the energetic, streetcar-lined Broadview Avenue, which we briefly mentioned in the beginning of the video. Similar to the other major streets we discussed thus far, Broadview contains many shops and its own charming, vibrant homes that sit right along it, complemented by newer arrangements, like, among other things, these elegant modern townhomes. Just south of these homes, right at the intersection with Queen Street, is the Broadview Hotel, which is a really cool accommodation. South of that is some more beautiful buildings, directly adjacent to aged, dense homes that, along with many other things in this neighborhood, have a resemblance to the Toronto of old. That being said, some of these places aren't really in great shape, to say the least. Broadview continues on to just south of Eastern Avenue over here, gradually going down in latitude until it's on par with the Don Valley Parkway, or DVP, which is this highway that runs through the Don Valley, which makes up the neighborhood's western border. It feels substantially different from the energetically vibrant ebb and flow of all the places we just mentioned, though it technically just runs a mere block away from Chinatown, right underneath the prominent east-west streets that we mentioned of Gerard, Dundas, and Queen, which all go over it via bridges. Kind of interesting. As well as the fact that it's right in the Don Valley, which makes for a quite stunning view, this highway also provides a pretty convenient mode of transportation. The DVP continues south until around Lakeshore Boulevard, where half of it morphs into the major Gardiner Expressway, and the other part mellows down into the Don Roadway. This is also true for the Gardiner right here, as two of its 4 lanes connect with the Don Valley Parkway, and the other 2 lanes continue on in the form of the less prominent Lakeshore Boulevard that we just mentioned. Just south of Lakeshore Boulevard lies the relatively underused, quite sizable area of Portlands, which is heavily occupied by old industry that has mostly seen better days. Although some of the industrial areas and ports are still active here, derelict parking lots and warehouses act as an indication of what was, in the past, a thriving industrial district and shipping hub. Now, placed in an ideal location along the water virtually right beside downtown, this area is currently undergoing a project to inject new life into it. All in all, the city, the province, and the federal government are putting forth upwards of $1 billion towards rejuvenating this now incredibly sought-after location. And in a few years, it might look more like this than this. A few movie film production studios call this area home, which is kind of interesting. This is also true for the area known as the Studio District, just to the north. This area deserves a mention because it has, studios. Otherwise, though, it's a little similar to the Portlands, except with a few more dealerships. Kind of. Sort of. Now over here, just south of the quintessential Portlands that we discussed, is the wonderful area of Cherry Beach, which is right near Cherry Street. This tranquil, serene area right by the shore contains quite pristine, tucked-away beaches beside lush, relaxing park greenery, seemingly worlds away from the rather gray, bland, past its prime industry that lies merely more than steps away to the north. Overall, Cherry Beach is terrific, and whether you want to go sailing, bike or walk along this soothing trail, or just lie on the beach and watch the day go by over sparkling water, this is one of the best places in the city, right near everything, yet simultaneously so tucked away. That's not the only beach area in this neighborhood, however, because right over here, on the eastern edge of the neighborhood, is the also prominent Woodbine Beach, which, fun fact, is the city's largest beach and has a boardwalk going along its rather circled parameters. This famous, widely popular beach and park has all the space you could need, and is an all-around brilliant place to go for an outing, whether that be in the form of bathing in the sun, splashing in the waves, all the beach stuff, or taking a pleasant stroll along a trail to one of the lush peninsulas that look out onto Lake Ontario. This place is quite fantastic. Speaking of peninsulas, perhaps the most prominent area in this neighborhood with a wealth of outstanding places is this visibly large, hard-to-miss area of Thompson Park, or Leslie Spit, whichever name you prefer, although it's officially called Thompson Park. Originally built as a breakwater to protect Toronto's bustling shoreline, this man-made peninsula, since reclaimed by nature, gets its name Leslie Spit from the observation that it sort of looks like a great big spit, kind of. And also the fact that Leslie is the street that becomes the main path that goes through the peninsula. Extending about 5 kilometers into Lake Ontario, this path, surrounded by the rather wild, yet charming landscape of wildflower meadows and cottonwood forests right off the ever-prominent shore, is the route of this car-free public urban wilderness. This is definitely one of the best places in the city for, among other things, walking and or biking through diverse, quite unique landscapes, hardly like anywhere else around. With a soothing, somewhat off-the-beaten-path breeze blowing, and many frolicking birds flapping their wings in accordance as you look around at the tranquility, this almost certainly will make you feel as though you're a good distance away from the city, though busy downtown sits nearby. Speaking of birds, and wildlife more broadly, for that matter, Thompson Park certainly has a rich array of that, as it is the location of over 300 different animal species, spanning across many different ecosystems. From animals like coyotes and raccoons, to the many, many birds that reside here, this spit has an abundance of life, and it should come as no surprise why it's one of the best places for bird watching in the whole city. If you do, indeed, make it to the end of this peninsula, you'll be rewarded with one of the most famous views that the city has to offer. The whole skyline in view past a uniquely large distance of water. There's also a neat, historic lighthouse right around here, which is cool. Otherwise, some other things in this neighborhood worth touching on is Greenwood Park over here, which hosts the Leslieville Farmers Market and generally has nice recreational space, which includes sports fields, as well as an ice rink and a pool. There's also the decently major street of Carla Avenue, which deserves a bit more of a mention than we gave it so far. It contains a nice mix of both old and new buildings alike along it, as well as some more old, compact homes right by the road as you go a little south. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up South Riverdale for my estimations. In conclusion, from East Chinatown and old buildings to the wilderness of Thompson Park and tranquil beaches, and from lovely homes along tree-lined streets to the Valley Parkway and the bland, past its prime industry of the Portlands, this mightily diverse, thriving neighborhood offers a terrific mix of old and new, dense and sparse, loud and quiet, exciting and dull, all just to the east of prospering downtown.